Thanks very much, Ahmed. Can you just let me know if you can see the screen okay? Great. Yeah, it's really a pleasure to speak on the Cell Agri webinar series, especially because it's one of the first publications or newsletters that I signed up to when I got into the cultivated meat industry. And really, I'm assuming that a lot of the people that are on this call understand what cultivated meat is. So I'm not going to take too much time other than saying that this great diagram by Nick Coulter for New Harvest kind of summarizes it quite nicely. Taking stem cells from animals and growing them up in a process that broadly resembles brewing to produce real meat without killing more animals. And really, I wanted to start by kind of reflecting on what the industry is trying to achieve. And I've summed it up with this statement. It's not all-encompassing, but broadly, the vision of the future is supermarket shelves filled with great tasting, affordable meat that's more sustainable and that's produced without killing animals. And I think this statement highlights the challenges for the industry. Really, it's increasing scale, developing great tasting products at a low cost, more sustainably, and with animal welfare in mind. And I want to add one more thing to that, which is we really need to get there in the near future. We need to focus on building these capabilities and products quickly. And so right now, there are a lot of cultivated meat companies around the world developing these capabilities. And until now, a lot of them have been trying to address those challenges themselves. And what does it take to be part of this future? Well, a lot needs to happen. You need to develop cell lines, media, you need to optimize your process, and develop your product, your consumer product, while getting through regulatory challenges and manufacturing challenges, as well as marketing and distributing your product. There's a huge amount to do here. And doing all of this vertically integrated takes significant time, it takes significant capital, and really it takes a lot of experience to deliver on all of these technical capabilities. And if we look at some of the biggest names in the industry and what they've had to fundraise to really get their products to the stage they're at, which is just before approval, there's huge numbers that have had to be raised and deployed. And this doesn't make sense for every company, particularly the new entrants. And so what we're seeing now is a lot of enabling partners cropping up in the space to really support these products getting to market more effectively. Things like cell line providers, media partners, companies that specialize in product development and process development. And really, I'm here to talk about a couple of these. I'm focused on building a CDMO in the space. So I'm going to expand on the development plan for scale-up, particularly thinking about how this is done in-house versus outsourcing. So what does a typical development plan look like for scale-up? Well, you might start with some proof of concept studies if you're starting in an academic space and figuring out what cultivated meat product you're developing or what your technology is. And so this might be small scale experiments, maybe at the pre-seed or seed stage. And then really, when you're thinking about moving to more commercial scales, or when you're thinking about developing your process, you're likely thinking about running your process or your development studies in a way that emulates manufacturing. So you might start doing some small scale bioreactor optimization work. And then after that, you might think about large scale bioreactor capabilities. Large scale really depends on the product that you're looking at, the market that you're looking to. But in development stage, really, you're trying to get kilos of cultivated meat to start really starting to develop your products, maybe do some taste testing, maybe working towards regulatory approval. So this could be in the hundreds of thousands of liter stage. And what I want to do is zoom into a couple of these kind of chunks of the scale up and development pathway. So let's have a look at small scale bioreactor development and what it's like to do this in-house, and then we'll come back to outsourcing. Really, if you want to start those small scale bioreactor runs, say up to 1 liter or 5 liters, there are a lot of things that have to be done. You kind of need to go through your bioreactor selection process. You need to order it and get it delivered. And then you need to get it installed. And then you can start your development studies. And all in all, depending on the supplier that you're looking at or how you're building these capabilities, it could take 6 to 18 months to really get this chunk of work done. And that's on top of trying to identify the lab space and bring in the team and get your product working in the right process. But if we look at what this is like, if we try to outsource it to the right kind of partner that has the right kind of capabilities, really a few things fall away. You don't need to worry about your bioreactor selection or ordering or delivery or installation. It should be already there, which means that you can really focus on the development studies, albeit with maybe some tech transfer capabilities in there as well, to make sure that the partner is running the process in the right way. And that 6 to 18 months can come down to 3 to 6 months, for instance. But if we look at the large scale challenges, you see a lot of the similarities in trying to get your capabilities up and running in-house. You have to go through all of that selection and installation process, but the challenges are amplified. You've got your bioreactor selection, but how do you prepare media for hundreds or thousands of liters of bioreactor, the order of magnitudes more than what you're doing in a research lab? How do you think about perfusing that? What equipment do you need to install to support that? How do you harvest that bioreactor? All of these pieces of the puzzle can take a significant amount of experience to deliver, a significant amount of capital to install, and it's all barriers to success. And when you think about the facilities, for instance, that you need to put in place, you need to go through all of the processes of getting the right space selected and set up, fitted out, and bringing it to beneficial operation before you can actually get into your production runs. And what this means is it could take 18 to 30 months maybe to really get to the stage where you're successfully operating your large-scale bioreactors. But if the right partners are out there with those capabilities, a lot of that falls away. And really, you can focus on transferring your process to a partner and getting those production runs in place. And you can cut years out of the scale-up and development plan. The challenge is finding the right partner to make sure that it can happen. And so if we look at the costs associated with this as well, the costs that you need to incur as a cultivated meat company to reach your milestones. Well, if you're doing it in-house, you obviously have to buy all of the equipment. Whereas if you work with an outsourced partner, the total stuff you need to invest in is lower. The material costs are lower because you have the chance to work on economies of scale with a partner that's running multiple processes. The team that you have to hire is much smaller. The facilities that you need are much smaller, and the overheads are much lower. But ultimately, you do need to bear in mind that there are outsourcing costs associated with working with someone like a CDMO. But overall, the cost savings are significant. You can get the same milestones hit in your development cycle for 50 to 75% less than if you tried to build those capabilities yourself, as well as the time reduction shortages. Now, another thing that comes up all the time is IP. What about IP in the process? And building trust with partners like a CDMO is really important. When we're building the CDMO of the future, what do we think about? Well, really, there are 3 areas of IP in the space: patents, trade secrets, and know-how. And thinking about what each of these are, sometimes, for instance, it might be cell engineering capabilities in the patent space, for instance, Meatable, or some bioreactor designs, which may be proprietary. Trade secrets might involve some specific media formulations or cell lines. And a lot of the know-how might be part of the process. And how do you treat each of these? Well, patents are nice and easy. You can be an open book with them because your IP should be robustly protected. Trade secrets becomes a little bit more challenging. So you may want to lock down some of the information that you share, or maybe be less open about the formulations you use or the specific modifications to cell lines. But what about processes? This is always an interesting one. A lot of the cultivated meat companies are investing in developing their processes and their understanding of how to grow cells at scale. And sometimes it's a worry to share that kind of information. But ultimately, there's a difference between know-how and trade secrets. And what I would encourage people to bear in mind is don't confuse the experience that you've built with trade secrets, because you're always going to rely on that knowledge staying in-house. And it could also be a competitive advantage to work with a partner that has that understanding and that know-how in how to scale processes. So I want to touch on what's really needed from a CDMO for the future of cultivated meat. Really, we need to be building up expertise. I think a CDMO needs to be an expert in definitely the development and scale up of processes. We need to be working collaboratively to make sure that we're sharing what we know and that we're open and supporting processes and development as much as possible. We need to be thinking about getting to market as quickly as possible through some of the capabilities that I shared earlier. We need to be providing access to the best-in-class technology that's available and continuously investing in that kind of capability as new and novel techniques of scale-up and manufacturing come to market. Flexibility is key for a CDMO relationship because these products are being continuously developed. It's not like therapeutics, for instance, where you get closer and closer to locking down your process. As you get closer to market, these products are continuously being innovated. And ultimately, we need to be delivering these products at a significantly lower cost. And really, I think that this is what's needed from a CDMO in the cultivated meat space. And this is what Extracellular is trying to build. So I want to share a little bit about Extracellular and really what we're focused on. We're a CDMO dedicated to cultivated meat and seafood. That's really all we focus on. We were founded last year, and we're a team of 12 really passionate scientists and engineers who are focused on developing sustainable ways of people living on the planet. Really, we're process development and scale-up experts. That's our bread and butter. We have current scale of 200 liters with plans to go much larger. And we're based in the UK with global expansion plans. I wanted to share why I started Extracellular in the first place, because I think that speaks to some of the challenges of the industry. I wanted to do that by showing you my favorite image from my PhD. This image is almost 10 years old now, and this is adherent adipose precursor cells that have been grown on microcarriers. And this summarizes a lot of the stuff that I was working on a decade ago. How do you get difficult to grow cells working in a suspension process? And how do you overcome some of the challenges of the industry? And there's a lot that led to this image, getting adherent cells to work in suspension, eliminating serum or significantly reducing the cost of media, and optimizing the process, which for this went on to about 500 liter scale. And this kind of summarizes a lot of the research that I was doing a decade ago. And after that, I spent 5 years in a CDMO for therapeutics, developing scalable manufacturing processes for stem cells and gene therapies. And ultimately, we were developing these processes and started supporting cultivated meat companies. But what didn't make sense was that cultivated meat companies were going to biopharmaceutical CDMOs and paying biopharmaceutical prices for a food product that they couldn't eat at the end of the day because it wasn't developed in the right kind of labs. And that's why I founded Extracellular. And some of the capabilities that we're trying to install to really support the whole sector are there to accelerate these products to market. So in the process development front, we're focused on optimizing culture conditions and really providing that proof of concept data for early stage companies to move forward to get fundraising, to help evaluate new technologies like bioreactors or processes that they're developing, and to screen and optimize cell lines and media. And some of the capabilities that we've installed to support this are multiple parallel bioreactors and scales up from the 1 liter to the 50 liter stage, process intensification capabilities to support the industry. As well as that, you need to have low cost serum-free media for this industry. And a lot of companies are currently working on developing those challenges and developing those solutions. And so we have high throughput media platform development capabilities to eliminate serum, to screen ingredients from different suppliers, food grade suppliers, establish whether ingredients are stable for a certain period of time, and to develop feeding strategies. And our platform is really focused on screening hundreds of components, thousands of formulations, and tens of thousands of analytical samples a month. And on the scale up, well, we've set up 200-liter bioreactor capabilities with the needed harvesting and media preparation capabilities to support this, really so that these cultivated meat companies can start producing large quantities of cultivated meat cells. And really, we're focused on scaling up as quickly as possible to get these products to market, which means we're thinking about culture scales that are orders of magnitude larger than what's currently available. This is the team that's working on it. We're a collection of scientists and engineers with backgrounds in large-scale consumer goods manufacturing, research and development in cell and gene therapies, and some new really passionate researchers who just want to work on saving the planet. And we've pulled together a lot of experience to help the industry, including adherent and suspension culture and bioreactors, working across multiple species types, with different cell types, primary immortalized iPSCs, working on differentiation for fat and muscle cells, isolation capabilities to generate better cells, doing large cell banking projects, and running bioreactor operations up to 1,000 liters. This is some of the experience that we have on our team. And as I mentioned, we're focused on growth to really support the sector. So really building out those process development, media development, and scale-up capabilities, with the future plans of thinking about building dedicated facility and relevant marketplaces around the world so we can provide cultivated meat to markets that are ready to consume it, with larger scale bioreactors. And beyond that, commercial manufacturing may be on the cards. But really, to wrap up, what does the future hold for the industry? I mean, I think what we're seeing now is that we definitely need to work more collaboratively to get products to market. Gone are the days where we can raise hundreds of millions of dollars to invest vertically to bring these products to market. And I think collaboration is key to make a success of this marketplace. And I think to build a CDMO of the future, we need to centralize some of the expertise and capabilities to ensure that we're spending capital wisely and that we're working quickly and efficiently to get these products to market.